Well, Ken, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, we wanted to introduce to the audience Ken Lane here. Ken's one of our engineers here at Valuebase, and he's kind of the technical mind behind ValPal. Ken, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and a brief background, some of the big ideas you have?
Sure. I'm Ken Lane, and I've spent my career taking a look at making use of software generally, and then AI tools specifically, particularly now that they're getting so much more exciting and capable. And it's always been the case that we've had some amount of AI in the software that we create. Just a tool that does something that a person would have done in the past. That's the most limited version of AI. Now we've got tools that are doing the kinds of things that used to really require a massive effort for a large number of people. And just because you can use so much computation, so what I've done over time is I've just grabbed hold of the most powerful algorithms that I can get my hands on and put them to use to make software work. So I spent time doing video game software and putting brains into monsters and enemy combatants, and then also did some work for the military, and that's a little bit scarier, but also AI. And then have enjoyed looking at making use of the large language models that are our conversational counterparts in so many ways,
Right.
and that's what we're up to these days.
Definitely. And Ken, I think you're probably underselling yourself a little bit. You worked at Lockheed Martin, probably the largest defense aerospace company in the world, and you were the technologist of the year there a couple years ago.
It was a team effort, but it was some really nifty software that we were able to put together, and I just love building frameworks where people can plug in tools.
Definitely, that's great. And we want to get started. So the podcast today, we're going to cover ValPal Lite, which we are releasing for free. You can see it here. You can actually go visit it and sign up at www.valuebase.ai/ValPal. So what ValPal Lite is. So we've been using the ValPal tool for quite a while here internally at Valuebase. Kind of the story I like to tell is originally, we got started as mass appraisal researchers here at Valuebase. We got tired of being in academia in the ivory tower, writing books and papers that weren't getting read super often. And we actually wanted to deploy a lot of the algorithms we had built, the statistical multiple regression models to value land and improvements. We wanted to actually deploy those in the real world. So we started Valuebase. I went out and raised about $8 million in venture capital funding. We got started, built a team of former assessors, appraisers, software engineers, data scientists, merged everything together, and we got launched about in 2023. We currently serve about 35 different tax and jurisdictions all across the United States and Canada. We're growing quite quickly. And in that kind of growth, we kind of ran into this problem where, we're trying to pump out quite a few valuation models quickly, and we needed help. We couldn't train people fast enough. We needed kind of some of the AI models to help us do a lot of the work we've been doing. And so we built ValPal to actually train one of these models more specifically and fine tune it, do a little bit of work to make it kind of exactly what we need for the property tax modeling context. From there, some customers kind of heard about this. We were talking about this. They got interested in using it for different applications. Ken, you started spending a little bit more time working on ValPal and actually deployed a version to our customers. And we realized this is kind of white space in the industry right now where this is really, really important to, kind of start thinking about how to use these models, what they mean for the industry, how we can really supercharge people to do a lot of work. It's gotten really hard. It's hard to find good appraisers nowadays. A lot of the field is retiring over the next couple of years. And, how do we replace those people? How do we supplement the people that are left, the new people coming in? How do we teach them what's going on, best practices? That's a lot of what we do with this podcast is how do we share the knowledge that we find in each office that is special and really helpful and a best practice and share that to the rest of the industry. The mission with ValPal Lite in particular and ValPal is to leave the office at the office. We want people to actually be able to get their work done and go home. It's not uncommon that people, especially when their roles are closing, you've got to work really late, you got to work weekends, during the summer, if it's appeal season, especially in big states like Texas, it can be hard to go get a vacation because, the appeal volume has gotten so high with agents, other venture-backed startups, which I won't name, who are funding kind of tax agents and doing this more in bulk. I think things have just gotten, the work volume is only increasing and, there's less people to do it. And so we've got to supercharge everyone that's left and still here. And the new people we're going to bring in the industry with these tools. I think a lot of people think, AI is going to come take my job. I don't think AI is going to replace humans. I think it's just going to supplement what we can do and kind of help us do the more valuable things we need to get done and take a lot of the drudgery work away.
Yeah, I mean, the simplest metaphor I've got is, you can have a screwdriver or a power screwdriver, and you can get a heck of a lot more things done when you've got a power tool. And,
Exactly.
And usually, the metaphor falls apart pretty quickly because we're talking about very complex research tasks.
Right.
Like if you want to find the comps on something and run a linear regression on it. That's scrounging and finding and filtering and sorting.
Yes.
And so, for example, we built a power tool for that, and that takes all of those steps and all of those steps. And this is a kind of AI use that's a little bit new. It's called agentic artificial intelligence, and it just means that it can keep going, right? Like
Right.
it takes this step, I'm going to have the AI do this, and then this step, I'm going to have the AI do this. Well, it hands it off automatically,
Right.
and that hands it off to the next step. And what I've done when I code these things, I give these tools these sub tools that they have access to, and they can go reach for them. So one of the tools I created is something that can go and pull property valuation data from anywhere in the United States. And you want comps, you just query that, and it pulls back a filtered, correct set. And that's one of the things that the AI is able to go grab when you ask it to do an overarching task. So I want to find the value of this house. And it goes, I better go find some other houses. I better go find some comparable sales. I better put them together. I also see I have a tool over here that knows how to write code. And I'm going to write a little program now. And that little program is going to be able to do a linear regression, but it's going to first pick from this set of data that came in the values that are pertinent to the approach that I'm taking. Because I told it to make use of it. It creates a custom set of code that's following the rules, but is aligned to the particular task I'm having it automate for me.
Definitely.
And that whole idea of just being able to make use of a tool that is able to grab tools of its own and hand off the results from one to the next to just get work done in a sequence.
Absolutely. Definitely. No, that's a really great point. And talking a little bit more about ValPal Lite, what's included in the free version that we're rolling out. So there's 3 tools that we've included. There is the AI chat with reference libraries. So this behaves very similar to ChatGPT, if you've used that, or if you use Claude from Anthropic, or Google's Gemini as well. You'll notice that the models we use models from Google, OpenAI. One of our lead investors, Sam Altman, created OpenAI, and then Anthropic. So we use models from each of those classes. So you can actually drop down and select what base level model you're using. And each one has a trade-off. Some are smarter than others, some are faster than others. Trade-off between speed and kind of how smart they are and what they're capable of. So you've kind of got all that bundled up within the chat feature. And there's reference libraries, which is information relevant to assessors in particular. So there's a lot of information that is not widely available, or we want to point the AI at in particular.
Yeah.
So it hones in on that information for the answers we want to give, because assessments could be tests at school, or assessments can be for property tax. And so it's very important that we kind of constrain these things and give it the right context to be successful.
That's exactly the word. And one of the magic phrases is retrieval augmented generation, which is just a fancy algorithm for going and grabbing the context of the question you ask. So when under the hood, the way it works is it goes and reads through every paragraph of the documents that you told it to pay attention to in the library that's pertinent. It grabs out the pieces that are most pertinent, and then drops that into its top of mind.
Right.
And once that's in there, it then asks that little question that you had down at the bottom. But it's got all the answers. I mean, it's like going into the test, your question.
Right.
And it's got every possible paragraph from the textbook that is necessary to answer it right as part of the question.
Exactly.
And it stacks the deck, and it means that it solves some of the weird hallucination problems that can happen with large language models. We solve them because the answer's right there to the question you just asked. It's going to grab it from right there.
Right, exactly. That's a really, really great point. Another thing I want to bring up is, you might be getting to this point in the conversation and thinking, wow, this is amazing. This stuff, these AIs can do all this stuff. They're really incredible. You're like, wow, they can do everything, right? They can replace everything. I think it's really important to understand that they do have pretty big drawbacks as well. There are, these things are not a panacea. One of the problems you mentioned, the hallucination problem, it's quite pertinent, especially to what we do here at ValueBase and in ValPal. So the hallucination problem, because these models, the way they work, they're essentially trying to replicate and find patterns in text. So kind of the cardinal example I like to give is if I walk into this room here in the office and I go, hey, Ken, Ken's likely to go, hey, Will, back. So there's a pattern there. And so what these models do is they just scale this up. That's what they call the large language model. So if you scale up this pattern immensely, then you can actually get these really interesting results. So this is the pretty cool thing that we found out after this paper was released by Google in 2015, 2016 about the transformer architecture. So that's what we're talking about. So if you see GPT, the T stands for transform. And so this is one of the issues that these models have is because they're just, they're looking for these patterns. They can create patterns that look correct, but aren't correct. So the famous example is the lawyer who, used ChatGPT to try to create, some backing for and find precedent for his kind of conclusions, and it actually made up the cases. And so that's the hallucination problem. And so the models have gotten better about this over time. They hallucinate less. They're going to continue to hallucinate less. But it is a reminder that whenever we use these tools, they're just tools. They're kind of like a really smart, happy-go-lucky, go-getter intern who really wants to help and wants to help so bad that they'll try and create something that matches what you're looking for, even if it doesn't quite exist. And so you always need to validate the outputs. And that's why humans are so important in the loop. You don't want these models just running everything. Your job is still essential, even if you're using these AIs, because you need to validate and make sure that it's correct at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And we spent a lot of time trying to kind of plug the holes of hallucination.
Yes.
And what I'll kind of warn is if you go into kind of like a general model, if you say, I'll go straight to ChatGPT, it has not had someone nudging it back in the direction of this set of tasks that assessors have in mind.
Right.
And that context constraint is very important. Yeah.
Yes. And again, assessments are tests at school or they're for property tax.
And exactly so. So it's got to have the right context, but it also if you build the prompt such that it is more worried about hallucinating than it is about pleasing you with an answer.
Right.
And that's the kind of work that we've been able to pull off
with prompt engineering to make these models more appropriate for the use case.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So the last things we'll talk about here about what ValPal Lite is. So it's a light version of our full ValPal tool. We do a couple of different things here at Valuebase. The core thing we do for our customers is our valuation models that we build. So we use statistical models first to clean up your data, second to build the models. Then we come back and we say, hey, we built you this great first initial model. And here's this big data cleanup list of things we recommend, the errors we found. We recommend you go check those out. You go clean those back up. We have tools that help you do that. Then we build the model again, and over time, your model gets better and better and better. And so that's the core of what we do here at Valuebase. We've got ValPal on top of that, which is our large language model that interacts with all these tools for valuation and the automated valuation models we build. And then ValPal Lite is kind of the highest kind of tip of the iceberg in terms of there's 3 tools included for free because we want to kind of support the industry. We want to get this out, have everybody start learning how to use these AI tools, and selfishly get to know us here at Valuebase. You know, we want people to know us and like us because we're new players on the block. So there's 3 tools included. There's that AI chat with the reference libraries we mentioned for quite a few states across the United States, which includes property tax codes, statewide guidance, guidance from other different agencies, lots of important stuff in there. The second piece is this AI CompFinder tool, which I think is really quite interesting. Ken, you alluded to this earlier, but one of the valuable things is when you set up these LLMs and for these particular use cases like property tax, like we've done, you know, we connect up to an API to help you go find comps. So essentially, when the tool is searching within the CompFinder tool, the AI CompFinder tool, it's pulling from the API. So it knows to go grab that tool off the shelf and then like display the comps in there. So that's the second piece. And then the final piece, which I'm really quite excited about, is a tool. It's a vertical equity indicator testing suite. So IWO, the new ratio study standard, they just released a draft recently, and they'll be releasing the full standard shortly at the time of recording. And this allows you to upload a spreadsheet. Ken's built a lot of really magic stuff that allows you to upload really big spreadsheets into the tool, and then it'll actually run the vertical equity indicator test for you. So you don't have to figure out how to run, you know, scripts or anything like that, or try and replicate what's in the standard. We built that application out as well. So those are the 3 things. We wanted to add enough value for people that, you know, this is like really interesting and they can get their toes wet, and if they want to do more, they can come talk to us and get them set up with quite a few of the other tools that we have within ValPal. But this is kind of just the tip of the iceberg. But we wanted to roll something out for the entire industry so people can get kind of exposure to this, can understand what's coming, what it actually looks like. You know, the tool's name is very, very important. We spent a lot of time thinking about that. It's called ValPal, and, you know, it's your valuation pal. It's your pal Val. It's meant to be kind, helpful, friendly. It's not meant to come take your job. It's meant to just support you. And we really want to like paint that picture, make sure people kind of get that in their heads and actually understand what the limitations are so they can use them well over time.
Yeah, and you know, it's worth mentioning. You know, there's ValPal Lite, which is you know, that lovely set of 3. I am making tools every day of the week. Will and our friends who are assessors at Valuebase have a lot of really good ideas of things that were not as fun to do all day long for day after day. And we're making tools all the time to get stuff done fast. And that
leaves the office at the office, I think.
Yeah, it's very useful when you start moving past just the 3. We've got a lot coming.
Definitely. That's super. It's a super good point. So kind of wrapping things up here, Ken, I want to thank you for all the hard work you've done here, getting ValPal ready, getting ValPal Lite ready. I want to encourage everyone to go visit valuebase.ai/ValPal, where you can sign up and get free access to the tool. When you get into the tool, there's a great feedback button in there. So hit the feedback, it goes straight to our desks, and we'll see that. And in that welcome email, I'll also have my contact information. If you're an assessor, this is only open to people for property tax assessors. That's the only people who get access to it, or your chief appraiser if you're in Texas or one of these other states. You have to work directly within property tax for a government to get access. You'll also get my contact information where it'll include my personal cell. You shoot me a text, give me a call anytime. If you have any problems with it, let me know. We'd love to hear the feedback, and want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us babble on about ValPal Lite.
Awesome.
Cool.